Hello and welcome to Morris Park. I'm Clyde Morris. And today's video is going to be about staging. And staging has become kind of a popular thing in recent years. And that's basically taking your plant and putting it into a natural looking planting. It's almost like doing a bonsai, where you take and you match your plant and your pot and accents together to make a natural setting and to make a plant really look good. And I'm going to show you today a few different stagings I've done, reasons for staging, and we're going to do a staging and show you how to do it. Now, staging doesn't have to be elaborate or complicated necessarily. It can be fairly simple, such as this little guy here. This Euphorbia infausta. And this little diatomaceous earth there I've had to use on a couple things. But basically, it's how to stage up a plant. Like I said, either by elaborate means or simple means. And I've got quite a few of my plants that I've staged up. And some of them just take no time at all. You plant them, put a couple of rocks in there, and it's great. And some are a little bit more planning. Kind of like these Gymnoclycium here. You can see the rocks that I put into it. I don't ever like to use big crystals or anything because it kind of takes away from the actual plant itself. This is Gymnoclycium saglionis that I've done this with. Some of these rocks just came out from roadside, some came from creeks, some came from a spring. I do like to use rocks that have smaller crystal formations, such as this one here. They look very interesting. They don't take away from the plant too much. And in staging, a lot of it comes with pots, accessories, and such that you're going to use as to what makes it really look good. Now, this little container I put this in is basically a stoneware pie dish. And I've drilled holes in the bottom with my Dremel and made it so it drains real well and so the plants don't get waterlogged or anything. You definitely want good drainage in your pots. But anyhow, it's basically a way to make your plants pop and stand out. Such as this Corinopuntia invicta here. You can use all kinds of rocks. In our area, you can find arrowheads a lot of times in farmers' fields and such. And so I've used arrowheads in some of my plantings there. I use what I call rock pile style. And I like to make it look like the plants are going directly out of rocks, almost like a mountainside or a very rocky terrain where the plants go right out of the rock. You can see with this Euphorbia evansii. I've got it into another baking dish, stoneware. I like to use stoneware containers. They seem to have a nice earthy look to them. But you can see how I piled all this in here with the rocks. And the plant is doing wonderfully. I actually cut this late summer. Just placed it in here as a cutting. Built my staging around it. And the plant really came out very nice. It's a real good staging. Some of my stagings are actually kind of large. As you can see with this Echinocactus grusonii I've had for quite a while. It's a very big plant. The use of rocks in the actual container, big stoneware container, makes that plant really stand out. This is actually a very large staging I did here with my Euphorbia evansii. A little more whimsical. See my little Asian gnome down there. Now the tree has a tie around that trunk there, just because I don't want it blown over in storms and such, and we get a lot of that. But anyhow, one of my larger stagings. Staging can also be as simple as just having a very nice plant in a very nice pot, such as this Euphorbia zigzag in this big beautiful stoneware pot. The only thing I'll say about these stoneware pots, the larger they get, the heavier they get. So that's something that's to be kept in mind. This here is some outdoor cacti. This is a little cat paw opuntia. It's a fragilis hybrid here. Opuntia fragilis. And this one here is Opuntia humifusa. And it's a variety that came out of Illinois. This one isn't actually from Missouri, like our native ones are, but it's the same species basically. Just seems to grow a little bit different than my other humifusas, so I've got it in this big bowl here. Or this Euphorbia horrida here. Euphorbia horrida var norsveldensis. And some good rocks in there and a nice pot. That's pretty much what staging is about. Just displaying your plant in a nice pot. Or like this Trichocereus stelagonus crest. Got a nice stoneware bowl. Some cool rocks. Now you might be asking, is staging really necessary for a healthy plant? No, it's really not. You can grow plants in a plastic pot and be just fine. Probably be more cost effective, easier to deal with. Staging is just a way to bring out natural beauty. That's all the staging is about. Staging is basically an art form. And if you want your plants to look good and pop out really nice, that's a good way to do things. You can just make it stand out and pop. And in a regular pot, although it may be a beautiful plant, it probably won't stand out the way it does in a staging. Now, not all my plants are staged. Some are just simply in pots. This one's in a big plastic pot. My Euphorbia horrida is in a big plastic pot. And they grow just fine without being like totally staged out. Some are just, in our stage, they're just in a nice pot, like I said, on the zigzag. But some are just the plants in the pot, and they do just fine. You don't necessarily have to have them staged for them to be growing healthy and good. As I say, staging is just a way to bring it out, make it pop. It's an art form. It's something to enjoy, and it's an art form that keeps growing and keeps changing all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to stage up a mammillaria I just bought here at Walmart this Friday. They had things on sale. They were $12 plants for $4. And so I jumped on a couple of them, and we're going to stage one up right now. Now, as I said, staging is not a necessity. Staging is just a way to bring things out. And we're going to show this here in just a second. We're going to put this together and make a real nice plant out of this. It is a nice plant already. This is Mammillaria matudae. A nice trio of plants. As I say, they were on clearance for $4. I thought it was very well worth it to grab a couple of plants. We got our stoneware pot here. I prefer to use the stoneware ceramic pots. You can actually use a terracotta pot also and have them come out pretty nicely. But I'm just a sucker for a stoneware pot. This originally was not an actual pot. This actually was a piece of kitchenware. Bakeware, if you will. And I go to a lot of flea markets and stuff and hunt these down. You can probably get them cheaper than you can an actual plant, a nice stoneware plant pot. And so I look for these, look for what may be great for my use, and plant them up. So let's get this going, and I'll show you how to stage this out. Okay, so we've got all of our things here. I've got my pot, I've got my plant, and let's see here. I got a brush here to brush the plant off because there's probably going to be soil on the spines and so forth. I've got my top dressing. Top dressing is not necessary either when you're growing cactus and succulents, but in my opinion, I like to have it because it allows the perlite not to be floating all over the place and your soil getting moved all over the place, the roots getting washed out and such. Many people grow cactus and succulents without using any kind of top dressing. Me, I can't go without doing it. It's just a thing for me. I really like to use top dressing because, like I said, keeps the soil in place, it looks better, and you don't have the perlite floating up and around all your plants and everything, which that's kind of bothersome. I'm not saying it completely stops perlite, because every once in a while if you water too hard you're going to get some perlite float up, but we're going to try to put enough of a layer of top dressing on there so it'll kind of keep that perlite from floating around or anything. I've got a bunch of my rocks and so forth, as you can see here, some really great rocks, and we're going to put them in there with it and make it look really cool. Now fortunately for me, I live in a place where you can get really cool rocks. Have all these little holes and stuff in them. I really like these. You can get other kinds of rocks here too, but I prefer to use them rather than just the little solid regular rocks that are just limestone or what have you. And so to me it just brings the plant out a lot better than if you just, you know, said, okay, here I'm just going to throw any kind of regular rocks in there or whatever and just be done with it. There's all kinds of different rocks here. You can also, as I say, put arrowheads in there. You can take and use fossils, stuff like that, but something that won't take away from the plant so much because you're trying to showcase the plant. So in the art of staging, you're really just wanting to make the plant stand out. You're not wanting to necessarily just look at the rocks or at crystals or whatever you're going to put in there. You mainly want to see the plant. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to put this screen. I always use a little piece of screen over the hole. Keeps the soil from going through. Then we're going to take this. Now if you like, you can use gloves and stuff to redo plants. This mammillaria, I don't believe it's going to be necessary. It's got fairly short spines. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be necessary. I'll just pop this up with bare hands. If you like, you can use gloves. You can use newspaper around your cactus to hold them while you're trying to plant them. Some cactus might require it because of longer spines or really bad spines. Tongs are something that can be used also. If you wish to use tongs on these things, like on apunchas and so forth, that are really bad with the glow kids and everything, you don't want them all over your hands. That's something you can use also to save your hands from getting torn up by these spines. But this one has fairly short spines. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Going to come right out of here. And luckily this one has a pretty good root system. These plants were sitting at Walmart for quite a while. And so I had to kind of test them and pull on them and everything to see if the roots were still okay. Because sometimes when they sit at a big box store like that, they can actually be overwatered and they can rot and not be in very good shape. Now when they plant these in these pots to sell, a lot of times they bury them. And as you can see, they've got this soil all over here. And I'll take this little brush, that's why I got this brush. And we'll kind of brush this away to see where we stand. Now they've had this buried right up to here on this plant. And you can see it's kind of lost its spines down there from being buried up so much. So I'm going to gently brush some of this soil away and kind of break up this root ball a little bit, gently, as to not tear up some of those roots. You're always going to lose some, but the whole idea is try not to bust up so many. Be very gentle in this. Just kind of flake away this soil. And you can see here, where they've got it buried up so much, that doesn't need to be there. Being around the collar of the plant like that, when they're buried up like that, if you keep that long term, it can actually rot the plant out. We'll brush some of this soil away. Now some of this down here looks a little unsightly because they've lost the spines and everything because they've been buried up so bad. But when we put the rocks in, that's going to help hide some of that. And that's another thing about using rocks, is you can kind of hide some of the spots and the blemishes and stuff that are on the plant. Okay. Now this one, I can tell it has been in the moist soil just a little too long. And it's also in a peat moss soil. I don't like using peat moss soils because they do cause root loss in the long term. As your plant gets older, they really just don't like the peat. And so basically the roots just kind of rot and fall off. And I can see some of them here in the soil that actually have come off. They're not that great a shape. I'll brush off some more of this soil. Get that out of the way. Get some back here on the tallest one. Get that out of there. You don't want to get too aggressive on these, as I say, with these roots and break them all off. Now, I'm not going to dig too deeply in this. I know this is 3 plants. And I don't want to rip them apart too bad. In fact, keep them together. But I am going to replace this soil with my mix. So I'll go ahead and throw some mix in here in the pot. A little more. And then what you'll do is you'll kind of take a look at your pot. What side do you like the best? Pot may have blemishes on it or something like that you may not want to see directly. So you turn it around, take a look and see what you got and where you want to sit. You want to kind of take those roots, kind of distribute them around a little bit. Now I think I'm going to lift this up just a tiny bit more. A little handful in here. Try not to bunch those roots up underneath the plant too much. Kind of spread them out in the pot without tearing them off. There we go. Now we'll just fill in our soil. Now, I don't use a peat moss soil at all on my plants. My soil is basically made of coconut coir, wood compost, which you can buy at the stores these days. They have wood compost soils. They're made more of the wood compost instead of all the peat. Even your commercial cactus mixes are more or less peat moss. They're not good at all. So I never use a commercial cactus mix. Some more soil in there. We'll kind of settle this soil around. I'm also going to take the end of this brush here, the handle end, and go in between and get some of that soil kind of flattened out in there so it isn't so much around the plant. Now, I've never been to a cactus and succulent show where the staging was a big deal. I've only been to one cactus and succulent show in my whole entire life, to be truthful. And that was back in 1984. And they didn't have all of what you see on YouTube and such nowadays. To where you have all the competitions of staging and so forth. Although staging is not a brand new thing, it's become kind of a new deal I've noticed with a lot of people. People are staging plants more and showing it more on YouTube. Get some of the extra soil off of here. It's going to look really nice. You want to settle your soil down there a little bit. And as I say, I have not buried these things like they were. You can see more of a neck of the plant now, how it's planted. And that's kind of what we're looking for. Then what we're going to do After I add a little more soil, so I don't want to get up around the collar of the plants. Make sure some of this excess soil is out. Looking like a real nice plant here. Just the pot alone has made this plant look better. As I say, plastic pots are probably the most economical pot you can get. They're easy to get these plants out of because of the plastic sides. But also if you use a glazed pot such as this one on the inside, it'll do the same thing. The plants will slide right out of there. But plastic pots in the long run are the most cost effective. And if you get square ones, you can actually fit more plants in your collection. But me, I'm kind of a sucker for staging and nice pots. I really like a nice stoneware pot. And there's a lot of them out there anymore that people are making that are really fantastic. I really just don't have so much access to them. So flea markets and such are a lot of my place to look for nice pots. Okay, now I've got all my soil in there and everything that I want. It's pretty well settled down. A little bit more brushing here and there to get some of that soil out of the spine so it doesn't look so bad. You don't want that soil all choked up around the spines there. Okay, now we're going to put some top dressing on. You can use all kinds of gravels and such for top dressing. I don't recommend using pure sand because it washes around too bad. It's not quite as bad to have your top dressing around these collars of these plants as it is to have soil, because the gravel is going to dry out pretty quickly. I got a little bit of soil I got to settle down there. Okay, continue putting some top dressing in. You want to make sure that you get it all around the plant real well, including in between the plants. If you get any little gravel or rocks or anything on there, you can always use your brush to kind of brush them off. Make sure they're not stuck to the spines. I'm going to settle this in. That's looking real nice. Now, all on its own, that looks pretty cool just the way it is. That nice top dressing and the plant sticking out of that nice stoneware bowl. But we're going to add some more things to it. And we're going to start placing our accent rocks. And sometimes you got to look at your rocks to see how you want them to sit in there. And maybe put a little top dressing around in or behind them to help keep them where they're at. Kind of stabilize the rocks so when you move the plant, it doesn't tend to drop the rocks, your accent rocks, out of it. Yeah, very nice. And then we'll take and probably put something up front here. Just settle that one in there real nice. And we'll go with a couple other smaller ones, I believe. Let's see here. Sometimes you have to move your rocks around too to get them to fit just right. And as I say, this staging, it's not imperative that you do this for your plant's health. This is strictly to bring out the beauty of the plant and make your $4 plant here look like a $100 plant. Another little rock in here. I kind of like to go for the rock pile style, so things look like they're kind of growing out of the rocks. When I lived in Arizona, I witnessed this quite a bit, and you would see things like ferrocacti, mammillarias, and plants like ocotillo and agaves growing straight out of rocks. I mean, and when I say straight out, I mean out of a crack of a rock, because there was some soil in there that was just enough to get them started. And then the roots just continue, soil keeps continuing to build up around them as debris and dust and dirt blow in from different sources. think we'll put another rock over in here. And I like my rock pile style. I say this is not all necessary to make your plant grow better. This is just strictly to make them pop and look better. And if you take them, say, into a show or something like that, you'll probably have a much better chance of winning and getting somewhere if you have them staged up. I've seen plenty of flat ones in plastic pots that seem to have taken prizes while I've watched YouTube. But I believe that the nicer the plant looks, the better chance you're going to have. I would really love to enter something like that, but I'm too far away out here in the country in Morris Park from any cactus and succulent clubs and such to be a member of. I could never go to weekly meetings and monthly meetings or anything like that because I'm way too far away. St. Louis is about the closest place, and that's a couple hundred miles from me. So I won't be doing that. Okay, I think we've got it down now. This is basically what you do to be staging your plants. Makes them look real nice, and we'll get a close-up look at this after I get this all cleaned up. And there you have it, all staged up. I'll move it out in the sun here a little bit so we can see it a little better. Mammillaria Matude. Then in a kind of semi-rock pile style, I'll put it out here in the sun a little more so you can see it a little better. And there we have it. Turned out to be a real nice little planting. And really made that $4 plant, clearance plant, really stand out. Cool rock back there. Say the nice stoneware pot. I think it really did this plant well. It's a great looking plant. Doesn't look like something that you just paid $4 for. Rocks all looking really cool in there. This black rock here, I believe it was one that came out of a spring actually, that somebody brought me. Take a look there. If you go looking around, you can actually find some pretty cool rocks out there. You don't necessarily have to buy them. Me, I just go out in the country and I find them, or I go to a creek somewhere nearby. Sometimes I just walk out in the middle of our dirt road and find stuff. It's sometimes that easy. Now, how nice does that look? Really a great planting. And I think it would actually be show worthy. Pretty cool. And that's basically how you stage up your plants. I don't use too much gaudy stuff, like little fairy stuff or anything like that. That's your choice if you'd like to use stuff like that. I try to go a little more natural. A couple of funky things I've got. I mean, I got the little Asian gnome guy in my Euphorbia Evansii eye, and he's actually made a stoneware in himself. And then probably the little cow skull down there in the outdoor planting with my Fragilis and the Humifusa. That's probably about as whimsical as it gets for me. I'd say the fairy gardens are kind of a different deal, and those become a very popular thing also. My wife is very much into these fairy gardens, and they're pretty cool. but for these cactus and stuff, we kind of have a different vibe going on. And you want to look more natural if possible. Like I said, I got my two funky things down there, and that's probably about it. But for the most part, I like to have it very natural looking. Like this is just a little piece that you just popped out of nature. That's kind of what I'm going for here, is that out of nature look. But anyway, I just wanted to show you about staging, how to do it, and how to set up your plants to make them really stand out. So that when you go and get that $4 clearance plant, you can make it look like a $100 bill. Not that I'm trying to sell these or anything, but it does make them look so much nicer. Anyhow, this is Clyde Morris from Morris Park. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day. Take care.